move on into our guided imagery meditation for the evening. And the request was hiking through the mountains. So before we start our hike through the mountains, I want you to take a look at the mountain ahead of you. And I want you to imagine that you're at the bottom of the mountain. And just take a look. How big is the mountain? Is it a really, really big mountain? Is it fairly small? What does the mountain seem like? Kind of think about what path you might take up the mountain. And once you've got a good visual of what that mountain looks like, I want you to take a moment to reflect on who you are and what you are at the bottom of the mountain. Do you want to be a person? Do you want to be yourself? Or do you want to be an animal? Sometimes I find that picking a being other than yourself really helps you explore the freedom of moving through spaces in a different way. So maybe you want to be a monkey or a little bug or a bird or whatever, doesn't matter. Pick something that you want to be. And think about how it feels to be that creature. Think about what kind of limbs it has, what kind of senses it has. Does it have any different senses than you? What might those be like? And then I want you to do a couple of warm-up circles at the bottom of the mountain. So go ahead and move around at the bottom of the mountain. Maybe you need to stretch a little bit. Maybe you need to get used to some new appendages that you have. However you need to get ready to climb this mountain, go ahead and do so. Okay, now that you have a good idea of what kind of creature you are, we can go ahead and start climbing the mountain. So pick a trail, kind of at the bottom of the mountain, see, is it a trail that people have been on before, or creatures have been on before, or not? Take a look at it, and when you're ready, you can go ahead and start climbing the mountain. Maybe this means that you're flying through the trees, above the trees. Maybe this means you're walking on a path. Maybe this means that you're swinging from tree to tree. However you want to start climbing, go ahead. We're just going to climb the path for a little while and really get in the rhythm of that movement. And if you need to actually do this in your space as a part of the meditation, absolutely do so. If you have a safe space to do that, go for it. Pretend you're this creature. What kind of rhythm do they move with? Is it fast? Is it slow? Once you feel like you've got that rhythm, I want you to focus on whatever you are touching. So think about, if you're a monkey, what do the branches feel like as you're grabbing the branches? If you're a person walking, what does it feel like as your boots hit the ground? Or are you barefoot? If you're a bird, what does the wind feel like as it's pressing on your wings? Is there kind of like updrafts? What is touching you, and what does it feel like as you are moving with this rhythm? Can you hear the rhythm? maybe wings flapping, crunching. What does the rhythm sound like? And once you've been moving through the mountains for quite a while, I want you to take a little moment to rest. So go ahead and take a moment to find a spot to stop. And take a look around, see how far you've come. Are there any other things happening on the mountain? Is it pretty barren? Do you hear other animals or other people? What kind of things do you hear? You can go ahead and take a look around too. Maybe try to look for some of those things that you hear. Can you see those things too? And once you feel like your break has kind of come to an end, you can go ahead and return to that rhythm as you're climbing the mountain. Does your rhythm have to change at the next part of the mountain for some reason, or can you just keep going? By this point, you're pretty far up into the mountain, and you're starting to feel the air get a little bit cooler and a little bit denser. And suddenly you realize that there is some sort of fog, because you have come so far up the mountain that you are kind of in the clouds. So as we continue moving, you kind of can't see as much, so I want you to think about what can you hear, what can you smell. And you know that you're going to make it to the top of the mountain, and that in a little while the clouds are going to clear. So keep following a smell or a sound, maybe a feeling. And you make it through the clouds. And by this point, you're a good way up the mountain. So if you want to stop, you've come to a creek, and you're going to have to cross the creek. But first I want you to interact with it in some way. Maybe you need to take a sip of the water. Maybe you want to stick your hand or your foot in the creek. However you want to interact with it. Maybe you even want to swim or take a bath or splash yourself. However you want to interact with the creek, go ahead and do so. And once you've had a little bit of time with the water, I want you to thank it and continue on. You can get across the water by swimming or walking through it or going over stepping stones, or maybe there's a bridge. However you need to get across the creek, go ahead. Pick a way to get across. And I want you to feel the way that the movement is as you're crossing the creek. Do you need to jump? Do you need to walk? Do you need to crawl or swim? What does that movement feel like? And when you're on the other side, you're really close to the top of the mountain. And at this point, you can either just know the way or you can see a little sign. And I want you to think about a name for the place that you're going. there is a place that I've been before called Inspiration Point. I know a couple of friends love that place too. Inspiration Point is what I'm going to call mine. So go ahead, pick a name, whatever you want to name it. And you're going to go down a little side trail. I want you to reach out, and if there's any, maybe it's a rock wall, maybe it's trees, maybe it's leaves, maybe it's bark. Whatever it is, reach out and feel that as you keep going down this little side trail. And then you're going to come to a clearing where you're going to see that you have made it to the top of the mountain. And go ahead and look out over the edge of the point. You can stand back as far as you want, you're safe. But you can see everything from up here. What do you see? What is around this mountain? And what does it mean to have climbed this entire mountain today? How does that feel? How does the experience of climbing an entire mountain feel to you? Does it feel empowering? Does it feel exhausting? Maybe both? And look out over the horizon. And by this point, you've spent all day climbing this mountain, so you can go ahead and sit down on a rock or the ground or wherever. Maybe there's a little bench, maybe you brought a camp stool. Go ahead and look out over the horizon. And the sun begins to set. What kind of colors do you see in the sunset? The oranges and pinks, maybe blues and purples. What kind of colors do you see? And what is the light doing? Is it coming through clouds? Is it just straight on? How does the sun look? You're not gonna go blind by looking into the sun, don't worry. Or alternatively, if looking at it is not something that feels comfortable to you or you're able to do, go ahead and think about how that feels. Maybe you feel wind. Maybe you feel the warmth of the sun rays as it's beginning to cool down. Maybe you start hearing creatures like crickets come out because it's beginning to get closer to dusk. And go ahead and watch the sunset until it goes all the way down over the horizon. And for a little while, it's kind of this in-between twilight where you can still kind of see things, but not really. And then you start to see one star, and then another, and then another, and then another. And over the next little while, you begin to realize that there are just so many stars above you. And if you want to find a constellation, you can. If any of these stars have meaning to you, feel free to connect to that. And just look at the stars. Take a look at the sky. Do you see any moon or planets? Maybe you see something like the northern lights. What kind of things do you see in the sky? How does the air feel now that it's night? What is the surface that you're sitting on like? taken a little bit of time to experience the top of the mountain and the stars and what the whole day was like, you can choose now whether you want to hike back down the mountain or find a little nook to sleep in for the night. Maybe set up a campsite, because you're getting pretty sleepy. Maybe you just want to lay down and sleep directly under the stars. Choose a way to find a comfortable spot or a comfortable rhythm. And you can either drift off to sleep, or you can feel yourself as you hike back down the mountain and return home. And take a couple deep breaths. And when you're ready, you can begin to wiggle your fingers and your toes. And feel what you're sitting on or standing on or laying on. What kind of surface are you actually on here? And you can open your eyes. And welcome back. Yeah. Thanks for joining me today. I will see you all next week. I hope you have a lovely evening and that you got a little bit of time to relax and enjoy. Okay. I love you all. Good night.